So thank you for giving me the opportunity again. And a big thank you, as always, to Torah Anytime for recording.
Thank you.
So I figured I would talk about a shocking topic that you wouldn't dream of. That was so corny. I want to talk about dreams. The yeshiva that I'm privileged to be a Rabbi in Heichal Torah, so there's one shir every day that goes to IDT, and the Rabbi gives shir there in IDT. So today on the way in, I don't know, I didn't notice it the last time that we went, but I guess because of the topic, I saw on the wall in IDT there's a quote from President Reagan, Ronald Reagan, which says, "America is too great for small dreams." America is too great for small dreams. So I asked my students, what do you make of that? Is that a Torah hashkafa? What does the Torah say about that? Is too great for small dreams? And they said, the first thing they said is what my first instinct was, which was when it comes to Torah, when it comes to Ruchnius, there's no such thing. You have to have small dreams sometimes. You can't always have two big dreams. You have to have dreams of small things to get you to the big things. You start dreaming of finishing Baba Basra, you probably won't finish. It's too big. But if you start dreaming of one daf a day, maybe you'll be zocher to finish. But then I thought about it again. I told them, I don't think President Reagan was talking about it on an individual level. As individuals, yes, we have to have small dreams. But President Reagan, I think, was talking about America as a whole. America is too great for small dreams. America, as a country, we shouldn't sell ourselves short as a country. And I don't know, I can't ask President Reagan what he meant, but that's, I think, what he might have been talking about. But for sure, it's true for us as a people, for Klal Yisrael, that the Jewish people are too great for small dreams, that we should not sell ourselves short. We say every Shabbos, a few times on Shabbos, V'shuv Hashem Shivas Tzion, Hayinu Kicholmin. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu will return the captives of Tzion, we will be like dreamers. And in fact, in our time, there are so many things that have happened that we take totally for granted, that Hayinu Kicholmin, for generations and generations of our ancestors, it was a pipe dream. To go to daven at Kever Rachel, to go daven at Aras Machpeil, to go daven at the Kosel, at Harabais, to go to Yerushalayim, to go wandering around Yerushalayim and pick yourself up breakfast.
It'll be like this. It'll be like so glorious.
And that way, how beautiful it is now, 100%. Hayinu Kicholmin. My Rabbi Barawine, so he was asked recently on a podcast, they have all these interesting questions that they ask. So they asked him, if you could live in one era, in one generation, which era would you choose? And he said, I have seen some incredible things in my lifetime. He's Kinhara past 90, and he lived through the end of the very end. He was in Chicago, but lived through the end of the Holocaust and seeing the, formation of Eretz Yisrael, and then the 67. No, he was in Chicago. But his relatives, his father, he said he remembers the day that his father found out that his entire family was killed out.
Oh wow!
Imagine. But to live through the revival of Torah in throughout the world, especially in America and in Eretz Yisrael. V'shuv Hashem Shivas Tzion, it was things that were dreams. They're things that a person couldn't, and Klal Yisrael is too big for small dreams. We're too great for small dreams. Even now, and it comes with a price tag, and the price tag has been horrendous, and the price tag has been, our hearts are broken. The collective heart of Klal Yisrael is so broken, and there's so much tsar, and there's so many families that are ripped apart in the last 15 months. But you tell someone 16 months ago, someone would be talking about, like, what's going to be? Iran is so strong, and we're surrounded by Hamas, and Hezbollah, and Assad, and the Houthis. They're all gone. And Iran keeps weakening. We have a lot to daven for. We don't know what's going to be. But just even what's happening, Rabbi Wein said, I'm perfectly satisfied with the generation, with the life, with the era that I live in. And he always quotes the Gemara, which says, Ein bal hanes makir b'niso. When a person goes through a miracle, you don't recognize the miracles, or you tell somebody else, it's in the later time, you tell them that you lived through it. It's in amazing times. So Klal Yisrael lives by dreams. And of course, these Parshios, Vayeishev, Miketz, and earlier also, Vayeishev with Yaakov Avinu, there's a lot about dreams. And the Parsha begins, Ele told us Yaakov, Yosef and Shvas Reishana. The generations of Yaakov is Yosef, who was 17 years old. And the Pasuk says, very strangely, Vahu Nar. He was a Nar. He was a youth. As Bnei Bilha, as Bnei Zilpah. With the children of Bilha and Zilpah. And the Torah goes on. What does that mean? He was a Nar. He was 17 years old. But why is he a Nar? Is usually seen as a pejorative term. It's like
Well,
it
depends.
says a nar.
You find it also all the time.
Correct. Also, we find it by Avram and Yitzchak,
Right.
going up by Har Moriah. But it seems over here, the way the Torah is saying it, and the way Chazal seem to be, at least at first glance, it seems to be looking down that there's something. We are very careful when we talk about Yosef HaTzadik, but we piggyback off Chazal, and it seemingly is there's something, a pagam of some sort, a subtlety in Yosef HaTzadik. Rav Shimon Schwab, he says that earlier, last week's parsha, in Parshas Vayeishev, when it talks about Shechem, also, Hamor talks about his son. He said he's a nar. He's a young man. He's a nar. He's old enough to do a dastardly act of what he did. So, why is he called a nar?
Try to downplay it.
So Rav Schwab says because he didn't have the patience. He was filled with a desire, filled with lust, and he take care of it now. And no patience to wait. Therefore, he did a terrible thing to Dinah. And he said that's the pshat, says Rav Schwab, and being a nar means somebody who doesn't have sufficient patience.
Acts impulsively.
What's that?
Acts impulsively.
Acts impulsively, correct.
Not mature.
There's a certain, that's maturity, a big part of maturity, that's true. A big part of maturity is having the patience to wait for things to happen, everything in its time. In fact, that's the bracha that we give a lot of times, B'shah Tova. Give that when someone's expecting, and that's a process. It takes time, you can't rush it. Yosef understood, and correctly so, that his dreams were nevuah. And that's why he felt that he had an achrayus, halachically, he had to tell them over, because they were prophecies. But there was something lacking. V'unar, the dreams will happen in their time. Not yet. And Yosef a little bit lacked that patience, says Rav Schwab, and that's what it means. V'unar, as Bnei Bilv, as Bnei Zilpah, he was too ahead of the game, I guess you could say.
To do the dreams?
Not even we should have waited for the dreams. He himself should have known that the dreams, it's not the time yet.
He shouldn't have said it yet.
I don't know.
See,
I don't know if that's
like
what Rav Schwab means. That he shouldn't have said anything. I'm not sure. But definitely for Yosef himself to have known, maybe he shouldn't have said anything. Maybe that's what it means. I'm not sure. But definitely for Yosef to have had the patience to realize it will happen in its time.
But here's the thing: how the whole story wouldn't have happened if he wouldn't have said anything. That's all.
No, it would happen.
Everything would happen, right? We see that from the story. That everything would happen. It would have happened. Just would have happened in a different way.
Don't usually the Gemara. I just learned the Gemara in Parshas. It says that it doesn't happen till you say it. It doesn't take effect.
Well, the dreams already happened. I don't know how to put all this together. I'm just saying a pshat in the pasuk that Rav Schwab says. But I was thinking that maybe that's part of the idea that Yaakov Avinu, he screams at him. That when you scream at someone, it's to give them like a little bit of a jolt. That they should. The Kotzker has a fascinating word. He says that Rashi says that Yirakia. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "Let there be a firmament," and since then, immediately it formed. Immediately it congealed somewhat the sky, and it hasn't moved in 6,000 years or whatever, how many years. It hasn't moved because of that one cry, one call of Hashem of Yirakia. And the Kotzker Rebbe says that's what it means, Yirah Shamayim. That we bench each other, that we bench ourselves, that we should have Yirah Shamayim. We should have the same Yirah that the Shamayim had. From one time, the Rebbeinu Shem said Yirakia, and since then it hasn't moved. So we should also, when the Rebbeinu Shem tells us something that we have to do, that we should hold that as well. So maybe that's a little bit why Yaakov, according to what Rav Schwab is saying, it makes sense that Yaakov, rebuked him or shouted at him at some level. Was Vayigar Ba'aviv was a little bit to counter this nar. I saw a very fascinating question, a very good point in next week's parsha, in Parshas Miketz, in Pasuk Lamed Beis, when Yosef is interpreting the dreams of Paro. So Paro shares both of his dreams, and Yosef tells him, "V'alishono sachalom al Paro pa'amoyim." Why did he repeat the dreams twice? Ki nochon adovar me'em Elokim, because it's correct from Hashem. U'mimar Elokim la'aso. So Paro, you should realize it's going to start right away. You had the dream twice in two different ways. It's happening right away. So why by Yosef wasn't the same thing? Why shouldn't Yosef come to the conclusion that it was going to take place right away?
Yosef had the dreams.
He had two different dreams. Two different dreams back to back, right? And Malumim, he also had the bundles. So also, Ma'ar Elokim La'asoso. So why, especially according to what you just said from Rav Schwab, why are we munning him? So there's a sefer, I think it's Mekahal Mayim Chaim, Rabbi Michal Mushkin, I saw quoted in his name. He says, beautiful. He says, if you have a tailor and a contractor, and you send them both off, and the tailor comes back 3 days later, it's all done. And the contractor, you're waiting weeks and months, and what's going on? You don't want a house that's built in 3 days. It's not going to last very long. Things take time. He says so brilliantly. He says, Yosef's dreams, Ma'ar Elokim la'asos, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to hurry to do it. The process is starting immediately. It did, like someone here said a few minutes ago. It did start right away. But you want to know about the ultimate fulfillment of the dreams, that you reach Malchus? That's a process. Slow. It takes time. It will happen. But it takes time.
This is like a different...
But it did start right away. That was the dreams, the double dreams. The whole part was that it's going to start right away. It did start for Yosef right away. It started immediately with him being sold down. And again, what would have happened had they not? It would have happened in other ways. Somehow it would have happened. So Yosef needed the molding of his leadership until he was ready for that leadership. But I want to share with you, I saw very beautiful from Rav Shmuel Birnbaum, Zechat Tzaddik Livracha. He has a totally opposite take on V'hu Nar. He says that the pasuk says, it's a pasuk in Novi Malachi, I believe, Ki Nar Yisrael ve'el ve'u. I think it was one of the Haftorahs recently, because Klal Yisrael is a nar, ve'el ve'u, and I love him. Klal Yisrael is a nar, Klal Yisrael is a nar. So Yisrael Salanter famously said that, Rabbi Salanter didn't say this part. I'll get back to Rabbi Salanter in a second, but I once heard a great line. It says, you could be 10 years old and you could be 90 years young. It depends on the person. If a person is able to grow, if a person is able to continue to change themselves, to continue to improve, to see themselves as a work in training, so no matter how old you are, you're still young. Even if, God forbid, a person's body is failing him, he's still growing, so he's young. Whereas a person could be old and varfed out, even at 15 years old, and say, I am who I am, and life is as it is, and it's never going to change, and have no spirit of life. Said to be so salanter, ki nar Yisrael. Klal Yisrael's a nar. They're young, they're youthful. Klal Yisrael can adapt. Klal Yisrael can grow. We're not stagnant. We're not a stagnant people. Always adapting in ourselves to what's going on. Ve'el ve'u, so HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, so that's why I love Klal Yisrael. So Shmuel Birnbaum says, that's V'hu Nar. That's the godless of Yosef. Hunar, he was able to grow. He wasn't stuck, even though so many things were about to happen to him in his life. He was the Ben Sekunim, he was the Bar Chakim, according to what Uncle says. He was the wearing Ksonas Pasim, but he was able to, he never was, no matter what happened to him, and so many difficult and terrible things happened to him, he never gave up. And he was constantly able to grow with everything that happened. There's a sefer, not a very well-known sefer, by a very well-known author though. And the sefer is called Amar Naka. Now, Amar Naka was written by the Rav Mibar Tanura.
Oh, really?
Famous Rav Mibar Tanura. He wrote a sefer on Chumash called Amar Naka, and he says a fascinating thing. He says, really, there were 3 dreams. Yosef had another dream. In fact, a dream that was before all the other ones, because the pasuk says. Rashi quotes at the Gemara Megillah. It's in Parshas Vayeishev, where the Gemara Megillah says that Yosef said, the brothers were afraid, and they after Yaakov died, they were afraid that Yosef was going to take revenge. So the pasuk says that Yosef comforted them. So the Gemara Megillah says, I think Rashi quotes it over there in Vayeishev, but it's Gemara Megillah, that Yosef said to them, if 10 flames couldn't extinguish one flame, then one flame can't extinguish 10. You don't have to worry. That was what he told them. That's the Gemara. Says the Bar Tanura in his Perush Ala Torah, fascinating. He says that was actually the first dream that Yosef had. Yosef had a dream that 10 flames were trying to put out one flame.
It's not in the Chumash.
It's not in the Chumash. And he says, why is this not in the Chumash? Because this only displayed the hatred of, or the sin or the kinah of the brothers to Yosef, but it doesn't talk about anything about his malchus. So therefore, it's not negay. It's not in the Chumash. That's what he says. And of course, it's a beautiful remes to Chanukah, because Vayeishev was always the week before Chanukah. Yeah. What's that?
How does he know?
This line about the 10 candles is a Gemara. How does the Bar Tanura know that this was his dream? I don't know.
Oh, it doesn't say that it was his dream.
No, it doesn't say that it was his dream. No, the Gemara just says that this is what Yosef told them. If 10 flames couldn't put out one, then one can't put out 10. The Bar Tanura says that this was his dream. Where he gets it from, I don't know. But you can rely on the Bar Tanura. I don't know. But we know that in life, it's very important. We need to have dreams, and a person always needs to have dreams in order to keep himself going, herself going. The problem is that we live in a world where people want to get from A to C, and they don't want to do B. And B is where all the work is. A is the starting point. C is the goal. You want to get from Daf Beis and do Daf Kuf Ayin Vav, Baba Basra, but you don't want to do the 174 blot in between. You're not going to be able to get there. There's a magnificent medrash. It's an incredible medrash. It's talking about when Yehuda was sent down from the brothers. A lot of difficult things going on in the parsha. So the Medrash says, and it's an awesome Medrash, Shvatim haya asukin b'mechiroso shel Yosef. Mechiroso shel Yosef. The Shvatim were busy selling Yosef. Yosef haya asuk b'sako v'taniso. Yosef was busy. Yeah, was busy with sackcloth and fasting. He was cast away from the brothers. Reuven haya asuk b'sako v'taniso. And Reuven was busy with sackcloth and fasting, as we know, because he felt it was his achrayus, correct? V'Yehuda, V'Yaakov haya asuk b'sako v'taniso. And Yaakov Avinu is not v'yimayin l'snechem. He refuses to be comforted. V'Yehuda haya asuk likach lo isha. And Yehuda's trying to find a wife. And this is the kicker. It's so eloquent, the Medrash. V'HaKadosh Baruch Hu haya osek borei oro shel melech HaMashiach. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu was busy taking all the different parts and all the brokenness, and it was all brokenness, each one of them, and he was weaving together the seeds of Mashiach, which would come from Yehuda and Tamar, from this very difficult story. There's a process. Dreams take time, and we lack the patience for it. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's the darkness that holds the key to the light. And Simcha Bunim of Pshischa says that of all the different personalities, if you can call them that, in this week's parsha, all of them in Tsar, Yehuda seems the least impressive. But he's the one who's chosen for Malchus. And he says that Yehuda, the greatness of Yehuda, and the greatness of all of them really, but Yehuda's particularly in a certain way, as I'll explain in a second, is he didn't give up. He didn't give up on the dream. Yehuda felt that he had ruined everything. There is no greater Yerida that a person has than when he feels he messed everything up. That's when the Yitzhar gets us. The Yitzhar gets us when we feel, I messed everything up, I'm done, I'm worthless. Yitzhar takes it and milks it for everything it's worth. And Yehuda felt he'd ruined everything. It was because of him that Yaakov is now in mourning and Yosef is not there. Everything was just a disaster. But instead of giving up, which is what the easiest thing would have been, Yehuda started over. There's an amazing vart. I don't know who says it. It's a Chassidish vart, but it's a magnificent taich. That it says by Vayeishev Potifar, when she was trying to get Yosef, Vatispeseu bevigdo. She grabbed him by his clothing. And she said, lie with me. And Begida, the Svarim say, Begida is a lashon of being a traitor. A traitor is a boged, is a traitor. Vatispeseu bevigdo. She grabbed him by his traitorness. She said to him, your brothers are sitting and learning by Yaakov Avinu, and you are sitting and handling with a Eishes Ish. You are a failure. You are a loser. She grabbed him by his Begida, and this is how the Yitzhar gets us. He grabs us by our Begida and says, you're a failure. You have nothing. Vayazov Bigdo Biyoda. He left the Begida with her. Vayonas Vayetze Achutza. I'm running away. Running away from the Aver. That's a gadlus. The Bais Yisrael, the Ger Rebbe, Tafshin Yud Ches, he said, it's one line, V'zeh hoya avodas Yehuda, litzamtzem es hayirida, to minimize, to constrict the yerida, the achar kach lalos, and afterwards to grow.
Maybe that's why they're both Melech HaMashiach.
Who's both?
Yosef,
it's for sure true. It's for sure true.
Yehuda because of
yes,
this.
100%. But he says that from Yehuda, see, Yosef was, I guess with Eshes Potifar, but it was all foisted upon him. But Yehuda, we know that his Bechira was taken away, Chazal tell us, but it looked like Yehuda messed everything up. There's going to be times when we have Yeridas. He says that's the Avoda. Litzamtzem es hayerida, v'achakach lalos. Not to allow the Yerida to get the better of us. And not losing the dream. Even the Bais Yisrael, the Gereb. But not losing the dream, not giving up on the dream. And fulfillment of dreams is a process. There's a extraordinary person, Rabbi Yitzi Horowitz, before Shlemi, as ALS, for years already. He was featured on The View, on one of the big TV shows already, a bunch of years ago. He's already been bedridden, he only can move his eyes, and he writes a Parsha sheet. I don't know if he still writes it, I think so. I get it emailed. It's amazing, he's still going. But in a certain way, more amazing is his wife, who, it's not the man she married, and she cares for him, and it's incredible. Mrs. Miriam Horowitz. So I once heard a recording of a lecture that she gave, and she said that many times in life, obviously she had a husband who was tremendously vigorous and was a Chabad Shliach and was doing amazing things out in California, and now he's bedridden, can hardly do anything. And his spirit of life is also incredible. But she said that, in life, a lot of times we have to give up on dreams. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows us that that's not meant to be. To give up on the dream, to let the dream die, and to mourn over it, to make room for new dreams. It's very profound. There's times in life when the dreams that we had, and they were beautiful dreams, and they were good dreams, and sometimes we have to let them die so that we can make room for the new dreams, for new dreams. I often said that Nasa v'nishma for Klal Yisrael was an amazing moment. Saying Nasa v'nishma in our own lives, I think in certain ways is the most difficult thing in the world. That means where HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts us, sometimes in individual situations, sometimes it's are the cards that we're dealt with. It's very hard to say Nasa v'nishma. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you put me here, this is where you want me, I'm going to do my best. It's very hard. It's very, very difficult. And a lot of times we have to allow dreams that we had, and beautiful, good dreams, worthwhile dreams. But for whatever reason, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't want those dreams. And we have to make room for new dreams, because we always have to have dreams. Rabbi Dr. Tursky, Zichrono Livracha, has told a story about a woman named Nora, who was 42 years old, and she was pregnant. She couldn't have a child. They adopted 2 children. She had a husband who was alcoholic, that was in recovery, and Baruch Hashem was doing great. And she told over the story. He heard it from her at one of the AA meetings Dr. Tursky used to go to. Even though he always said he's not alcoholic, he said he has an addiction to Torah. He said, but he goes because in the meetings he felt that there was a lot to gain. Anyway, so she said over this story at one of the meetings, and she said that 42 years old, she became pregnant. She said, this was my child. I was sure he was going to be a Rhodes Scholar. He was going to go straight to Harvard. He was going to be, this was the greatest gift that God gave her. She said, I was so thankful to God. He said, and then he was finally born with Down syndrome. She said, and I was crushed. My husband and I were crushed. And I was so angry. I said, God, I accepted what you gave me. I accepted I wouldn't have a child. We adopted 2 children. We built a life. And then you made me pregnant. Wow, amazing. Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? It was okay. I didn't need a child. Why'd you give me this child? And then she said, I started to think to myself, God, you could do anything. So God, do a miracle. You could do anything. You could do anything in a second. So God changed the child. Make the change. God, make the change. She said, I cried. My husband and I sat by the crib, and we cried and we cried and we prayed. She said, and then one night, God made the miracle. He made the change. And he changed us. And we learned, and we were able to love that child the way he was. And she said that I realized that if I'm able to love my child, my husband were able to love our child with all of his imperfections, then I know that God could love me too with all of my imperfections as well. Very powerful. But the idea of that she had to give up on a dream, which is painful, which is very, very difficult, in order to make room for new dreams. Because our dreams help define our trajectory in life. What we dream about and what our dreams are for ourselves, we hopefully follow our dreams, if they're realistic dreams. We know that Yaakov Avinu, his incredible dream, Yaakov dreams of the connection between heaven and earth, which is that's our purpose here. The Kotzker Rebbe says, we're going to say Mirza Hashem and Halal for 8 days soon. Hashemayim Shemayim LaHashem va'oretz nasan l'vnei Adam. The heavens are for Hashem, but the earth He gave to people. Says the Kotzker, the heavens are for Hashem, the earth He gave to people to make it Hashemayim Shemayim LaHashem. Our job is to make earth himmeldik, to make it heavenly, through our mitzvahs, through our liman Torah, to make it a place where the Scheiner feels comfortable. I saw once, Rabbi Soloveitchik said over that my mother has a magnet. Rabbi Soloveitchik didn't say about my mother's magnet, but I'll get back to Rabbi Soloveitchik in a second. I don't know if she still has the magnet. She used to have a magnet. It says, I quote it all the time, a house is made of brick and stone. A home is made of love alone.
Oh,
beautiful line.
Nice word.
So Rabbi Soloveitchik said, we say Bais Knesses, we translate Bais Knesses as a house of gathering, or a house of prayer. Bais Medrash is a house of study. That's not what it's meant to be. It's not meant to be a house of gathering. It's meant to be a home. It's meant to be a home of study, a home of prayer, a home where the Shekhinah feels comfortable. That's what a home is. A home is where everybody feels, of love alone, where a person feels comfortable. That's the idea. That's what it means to build a bias. And that's what it is for us, to make a world where HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shekhinah at Kiviyachal feels comfortable. The Beis HaMikdash, we know the Beis HaMikdash is compared to the neck. Where do we see that? In 2 weeks, Parshas Vayeishev. Parshas Vayeishev, where Yosef HaTzadik cries on Binyamin's, it's always translated as shoulder, but actually Yosef cries on Binyamin's shoulders, but it's actually not shoulders. Tzavarov is his neck.
So why is it translated?
Because it doesn't make so much sense. He cries on his necks. You only have one neck. The neck, they're near each other, but it's really the neck. And what I'm about to say, you'll see why. Yosef, Binyamin cried on Binyamin's...
Oh, but Dafka the neck.
Yes, because what were they crying over? Binyamin cried over the Mishkan, which was in Yosef's Chelek, in Shiloh, and Yosef cried over the 2 Batei Mikdash, which were Binyamin's Chelek. Why? What does that have to do with the neck? Because the neck is the connection between our heads, our minds, our neshama, and the rest of our bodies. And that is what the Beis HaMikdash and the Mishkan, that's what it was, that's what it represented. The connection between heaven and earth. That's the dream of Yaakov Avinu. And that's where Yaakov dreamed it. He dreamed it on the Makom of Harabais. He dreamed it on that place. And Shabbos Kodesh is also, Shabbos is the ultimate balance between the two worlds, where everything, Kodesh Lochem, I think the Berditcher says it, Kodesh Lochem, the Lochem is Kodesh on Shabbos. The Chol and the Kugel, tonight it's enjoyable. On Shabbos it's holy, because it's part of Kedusha Shabbos. Even the Lochem becomes Kodesh on through Shabbos. And in fact, the Midah that we talk a lot about on Shabbos is Tiferes. We mentioned it in Musa, we mentioned it in Tiferes Gedula. Tiferes, the Midah of Tiferes is a perfect balance. Right? Avram is Chesed, Yitzchak is Gevura, Yaakov is Tiferes. Tiferes is the balance, is the perfect balance. And that's what Shabbos is. It's the perfect balance between the Olam HaGashmi and the Olam HaRuchni. Later on in Parshas Vayeishev, Yaakov Avinu has another dream. And people miss it, because Yaakov Avinu says it in passing. But he says, and I had Avinu Bachalomi, and he saw different sheep speckled and all this. So they say, I don't know if they say it in jest, but there's a powerful point. They say Yaakov Avinu said, at the beginning of the parsha, I was dreaming about Hashem. He said, now I'm dreaming about sheep. It's time to leave. It's time to,
real part?
It's time to leave. Yeah, they say it's time to leave Lavan's house. You see where my dreams have gone. We can imagine the Yaakov Avinu's dreams. They were fun. But the message is for us that we stop dreaming about the Shechina. We stop dreaming about connecting the two worlds. So then we get into trouble. One of the other things that I think is very important when it comes to dreams is how do we relate to other people's dreams? I once heard a beautiful observation. I forgot who said it. A few people that I think I might have been, but I don't know who it was, so I feel bad that I can't say it b'shmo. In Parshas Vayeishev, Yosef asks at the beginning of the Parsha, Yosef is busy telling everybody, listen to my... sorry, let me go back 1 second. At the beginning of Parshas Vayeishev, Yosef is at the top of the world. By the end of the Parsha, he's languishing in jail, bottom of the world. Parshas Miketz is mamash the opposite. The Parsha begins, Yosef is on the bottom. By the end of Miketz, he's even by the middle of Miketz already, he's already at the top. He's the viceroy. So, who said such a beautiful thought. He said in Vayeishev, Yosef is saying, listen to my dreams, listen to my dreams, listen to my dreams, listen to what my hopes are, my aspirations, my dreams. It goes from here, down all the way down. By the end of Vayeishev, at the beginning of Miketz, Yosef is saying, tell me about your dreams. Tell me what are your aspirations, what are your hopes. By the end of Parshas Miketz, Yosef is at the top of the world. Rav Meir Shapiro, Zechat Tzadik Livracha, the founder of Daf Yomi and many other great things. One time on one of his travels, he came to the town of Shatz, and he met Rabbi Yaakov Halberstam, was the Chakov Rebbe, who was the son-in-law of the Shatz Rebbe. And they were talking. He came to greet Rav Meir Shapiro, the great Meir Shapiro. Meir Shapiro said to him, I have an interesting question to ask you, because he said he was the Shatz Rebbe's son-in-law. He says, is your Rebbetzin here? Meir Shapiro asked. Very interesting. He said, actually she is. He said, can I speak to her? Very fascinating. So she came, of course, they sat them down, and he said to her, you remember me from, oh yeah, of course, I remember you when we were little kids. They were little kids together. And he said, I want to ask you a question. Do you remember that I told you about a dream of mine, that everybody in Klal Yisrael was going to learn one page of Gemara together? And she said, yeah. Do you remember that you laughed, and everybody laughed at me and made fun of me? And she said, yes. He said, I just want to tell you, never ever laugh at the dreams of a child. That was the message of Meir Shapiro. Not to shtacher, I'm sure, but it's a powerful point. And I saw that Rav Moshe Halberstam, Zechat Tzadik Livracha, was the Dayan of the Eidah Haredis. So people were saying, it can't be, the story's not true. He said, the story's true. I heard it from my mother. Chakva Rebbetzin.
Wow.
Jewish survival, our survival, coming to my conclusion, the Jewish survival is a dream. Our being here is a dream. Klal Yisrael's being here. Yaakov Emden said in the 1700s that the greatest miracle of all, greater than Kriyas Yamsuf, Yechai Hashem, I swear in the name of Hashem, greater than Kriyas Yamsuf, Yitzias Mitzrayim. Everything else is that Klal Yisrael is here. And he said this in the late 1700s. The pasuk says that when Yosef was coming, so they said, let's throw him in the pit. And the Chazal tells us, Rashi tells us that the Baskol said, we will see. You're gonna throw him in the pit and destroy him. We'll see and that is the history of the Jewish people. Our enemies say, let's throw him in the pit with snakes and scorpions, and the Baskol comes out and says, Venera, we'll see my Yuchalamosa. We'll see what the dreams are. And of course, one of the biggest questions is, what do you do with your dreams? Because the next week's parsha, the pasuk says, Paro has his dream. Vayishon vayachalom shenis. I think it's a Kotzker also who says this. He went back to sleep, and he had another dream. That was Paro. By Yaakov Avinu, what does it say? Vayikatz Yaakov Bishnoso. Yaakov woke up and he said, "Ocheni ish Hashem b'mokom hazeh v'anochi lo yodati." Hashem is here. I didn't know. Zot Rashi, im yodati lo yashanti. If I knew, I would never have slept. Yaakov Avinu has a dream. He wakes up and immediately he springs to action. Paro has a dream. He goes back to sleep. So that's the question always with our dreams.
Most people
Go back to sleep. That's the question. What do we do? Are we like Yaakov or are we more like Paro? But the Maccabim, the Yom Tov of Chanukah, is because of those who went out to defend a dream. There's a dream. And it was a dream that was, I don't think their dream was that they would survive. Their dream was that the dream of Klal Yisrael. It's to continue the ladder and the Malachim going up and down. We're going to fight for it till the death. The rebuilding of Torah in America. The survival in Eretz Yisrael and becoming a Makam Torah. Probably the greatest Makam Torah in the world. Maintaining our values in Gullus. When the Baron Kotler started in Lakewood. When Rav Tzvi expanded the mirror despite his illness. And the classic story of the Panovich Rav. The Panovich Rav, who lost most of his family, and was in Eretz Yisrael, and he started talking about how he was going to build this, and he was going to build that, he was going to build the yeshiva. And someone said to him, "Rabbi, you're dreaming." And he said, "I am dreaming, but I'm not sleeping." Classic words. And the Panovich Rav built an empire of Torah. It's incredible what he did. He was tireless. Never stopped. You know, Rabbi Wein, she lived me well, my Rebbe, so he was a Rav of Miami Beach, and he said, many Gedol Yisrael used to come to Miami, they still do, come to Miami Beach during the winter, so he had a very close connection with many Gedolim. And one of them was the Panovich Rav. He said, and the Panovich Rav told him, one of the ideas of, no matter how old a person is, always be involved in projects for, Kvod Shemayim. This way, they're not going to be so quick to take you. The Panovich Rav, till his dying day, he was involved in so many things. And Kadosh Baruch Hu should grant Rabbi Wein many years. He's still writing books and still lecturing and everything else. Let me conclude with one last awesome thought, also from Rabbi Soloveitchik says, when Klal Yisrael, when Avram Avinu was on his way up to the Akedah, so he says, Shvu lechem poem achamor. He says to Eliezer and Yishmael, stay here with the donkey. V'ani v'hanar, and I, the nar, Yitzchak Avinu, Nelcha ad ko. We will go ad ko until yonder. V'nishtachave v'nashuv aleichem, will bow and will come down to you. Soloveitchik says, herein lies the difference in the hashkafa of a Jew and the hashkafa of the rest of the world. The rest of the world lives in a world of po. Whatever I see, whatever you see around you, that's the world. You have to live in reality, which makes sense. That's natural law. A Yid doesn't live in the natural reality only. He has to do that too. But he lives with a vision beyond, a vision of Ko. Ko yezaracha, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram Avinu. Ko, they'll be beyond. Right? It's famous word also from Meir Shapiro. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells Avram Avinu, go outside, count the stars, if you can. It's almost like he tells him, go outside and count them. Because you can't. What is that? Kadosh Baruch Hu tells him to go outside and do something he can't do. And Meir Shapiro says, he told him, go outside and count the stars. You can't? Ko yezaracha. Do it anyway, because that's what your children will be. They'll be the impossible. And somebody here is going to start singing Shweki songs, we are a miracle. But we are. It's true. Ko yezaracha. And that, of course, is the yontif of Chanukah. Chanu chof hei. Chanu ko. They camped at Ko. They camped yonder. It was a dream. It was something that could not happen. They could not win. Oil doesn't burn for 8 days. Smaller armies, minus, I guess, the wars in Eretz Yisrael in the last 70, 80 years, but small armies don't overcome massive armies that are much bigger than they are. It doesn't happen. It only happens if you have a viewpoint, a hashkafa of Ko, if you have a dream that you are willing to die for, that you're willing to fight for. Kadosh Baruch Hu should help us all that we should have dreams of Malachi Elokim Olam V'Yardim, and we should be zocheh to have the patience for the process to go on, to always have new dreams, never stop having dreams, and to be able to fulfill our dreams. Thank you very much.